All right, we are live. Welcome, Holly, and welcome everyone who are joining us on this podcast. Holly is a recruiter, and she has been joining us from USA, and she is from the Big League Talent Co. Today, she is going to share and give us valuable knowledge on how does the recruiting world works and what are the candidates should be looking for in their perspective of attaining a job. Welcome to the podcast, Holly.
Thank you.
Take your
Good
take.
morning.
Yeah, you can.
I've been looking forward to being here. Um, I think the biggest thing is being yourself. Never water yourself down to accommodate someone else. You should, as I said, be yourself, and because you have to remember at the end of it, they're not only interviewing you, but you're also interviewing them.
Hmm. Right.
It's it's a two-way street, and it's a very important two-way street.
Okay. So, how did you become a recruiter? What's your story? Can you share that?
I have been in HR for the past 15 years, so I have handled recruiting and onboarding um, for that amount of time. Uh, Upon leaving my last job, I decided that I would solely focus on being a recruiter because I can, in turn, help others to find their light and what they're good at and be able to help place them in certain spots to help them shine and glow brighter and help them find things that maybe they didn't know they like to do, or something that they just pondered on the idea, so to speak, and to make dreams come true.
Hmm. Can you tell us?
I'm sorry.
Holly, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Yeah. So I'm asking that. What can you tell us about your company? What is its mission?
I'm new with Big League, um, but their mission is to also help find amazing talent and place their people with places that they'll excel at, where they won't get stagnant and they have purpose. Because I think it's really big to have purpose and to know what your purpose is.
Hmm. So, what is Big League currently specialized into?
Construction. We um like my area is Dallas and Houston, Texas. Um, all I recruit for superintendents. I recruit for project managers. I there's some C levels that I will recruit for. It's whatever is mostly in demand, and then I try and look for people that will bring new ideas to the table, and in turn, sometimes it actually creates positions, and that's what my main focus is. It's because for me, it's easy to find superintendents and project managers, but I want to create new levels and new roles that will help all this industry. And because I mean, there's construction everywhere. It doesn't matter what country you're in or what state or city. There's construction everywhere, and everyone brings something to the table. Everybody brings new ideas and new ways of looking at things, and at the end of the day, it's all about saving money, and you never know who has that big bright idea on how to save money. There's always a diamond in the rough.
Interesting. What does your day-to-day job look like?
Day to day, it consists of being on several platforms, reaching out, cold calling, which is not my favorite. Uh, I That's one thing that I don't. I'm still learning how to cope with, but lots of cold calling. Um, but my most favorite is being able to reach out to new people and getting to hear about their stories and their goals and what they want to do with their life. And then also, like, uh, when I'm calling potential clients, the companies, learning what their needs are, what their wants are, and I get to learn more every day, whether it be new terms that they're coming up with, or um, helping them find new roles that they're looking to fill, or coming up with a new role that, well, this person can do this or that, and that would help your company in the long run. So it's being really innovative and being the best that I can at it. A lot of communication. A lot of communication.
Okay. So, can you hear me, Holly?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. I was. Hello.
It went back out.
Hello. Hello. Yeah, I was asking you to talk more. Can you just share more ideas on what was exactly your cold calling?
Okay.
Can you go? Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Cold, for me, the cold calling is getting a list of construction companies in the area and starting at the top and just making contact with a person in their organization, um, whether it be just the secretary or the CEO or the CFO, or because um, with our program, it'll extract cell phone numbers, and sometimes you don't know who the cell phone number is for. So you can the titles range on who you'll speak to, and before you cold call that company, you want to do a little bit of research, so that way you have some kind of knowledge as to what they offer, so you're not going in blind.
Yeah,
Because whether it be you or whether it be me calling or cold calling a client or a prospective client or a prospective candidate, I always do my research. I always LinkedIn is my main platform that I use to uh, well, LinkedIn and Google, to get as much background as I'm able to before I make contact. Um, because you want to make sure that you have key points that you can touch base on when you're on the call. You don't want to just go on, like I said, you don't want to go in blind. You want to have them know that you're a recruiter who knows what they're doing. You're a recruiter who puts time and effort into what you're doing, and that you'll make the most of their time, and because time is money, and that you will do everything that you can to, whether it's finding them the right candidate, or for the candidate side, finding them the right position, finding them that company that matches with their core values and their beliefs, and their wants and needs and whatnot. Because there's a long list to fill. I have a checklist of different things that I ask, whether it be a candidate or a prospective client. And that helps me find out who they are and what they're looking for, and most importantly, what they stand for. Because if you don't find out what they stand for, then the the potential can't be met.
can you go deeper on that? The questions that you always ask to a candidate, can you go deeper on them?
Yeah, I sure can. Um, it's one of my biggest questions is, what is it that they want to contribute? What is it? What's their strong points? Whether it be, um, do they like to work solo, or do they enjoy working on a team? Because the answers to that question will dictate on quite a few things. Because if they're not a team player, that will strike them from many positions. Because I'm sure, as you know, in an organization, it takes teamwork. Without Because there is no I in team, and everyone brings certain aspects to the table, and when one falls short, the other picks it up. Um, I also ask, like, what their dreams are. Where do they see themselves in 3 to 5 years? Um, what's some of their goals in life, whether it be short term versus long term? Um, and also, another one that I have found that has helped me in placing candidates is, in their last position, what they would have changed to make the process better, or to make their job easier, or just something that would help improve. and that's been where I've gotten a lot of great feedback because communication and direction are two of the biggest things that I've been told they would have changed. And without communication, there's nothing. You have to be able to communicate to your your team, your higher ups, and individuals, and it plays a huge part in daily life.
Right. Without communication, a person may have all the knowledge, yet he may not be able to speak clearly with his candidates or with his team. Then that knowledge will not be transferred to anyone else.
Exactly. Exactly. And with communication, we all learn and grow. And being able to learn and grow is a very huge, it's very huge because it helps us grow as a person. It helps us grow um as a whole. And I think without communication, you get stagnant and you stay in one spot and you don't grow. And without growth, you have nothing. And being open to other ideas versus thinking that just because you've done things a certain way for so long doesn't necessarily mean it's the correct way. Being open and honest and having those traits are another big deal. Um, and that's where my advice of when you're looking uh, for for new placement, whether it be in a trait that you're already really great at, or if you're transitioning, always be yourself. Always be yourself. The transferable skills that you have, no one could ever take those away from you. You can only build on those. And I think that at the end of the day, they grow each day. And
Hmm.
it's really, and you grow as a person, and self growth and self love is huge, and it's needed.
Speak, Speaking of that, what do you think is the hardest part of recruiting?
Oh, I that's a good question. I would think that finding where you belong, that's the hardest part, because it could most definitely not be where you imagine it should be. Because I know for me that's been my biggest challenge is the where I thought I would be most comfortable and be and flourish and prosper is not actually where I belonged at. Um, I'm grateful that I have been put in the position that I'm in now, to where I do work remotely and I'm able to reach out and meet new people and help businesses grow and flourish by finding them, whether it's um, helping them find the right candidates or whatnot, or if it's my business, Conteno Consulting, helping with HR or bookkeeping or just consulting in general, where these businesses are trying to find where they're lacking. And that's where I come in and I help them find new ways and new processes and get that implemented and watch them grow.
Watching people grow makes you happy, I believe that.
Oh, yes, it sure does. Because without, when you, I have a lot of candidates that reach out to me daily, and we talk often, and to watch them find new purpose it makes my heart happy. It does. It truly makes my heart happy. And I love helping business owners and corporations, and whether it be large corporations or small mom and pop businesses, because at the end of the day, everyone needs help. We can't go through this life on our own without help. And I like being the one to be able to help others. And I'm very thankful that I am in the position I am, to where I am able to to help.
Hmm. Switching up the energy over here, during the interview.
I'm sorry.
Uh, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
I believe there's a network issue over here, and that's why. Yeah, I was asking that let's turn up the energy over here, and can you just tell me what are the common misunderstandings that you come across during the interview process?
Um, it depends on which process you're speaking of, because each one is completely different. Um, the the HR process can have many many different ways, but in the sense, it all boils down to uh, sourcing, looking for the right candidate, uh, and to fill the role that you've been placed with. Um, or you come across a candidate that you know will do extremely well and excel in a certain position, and instead of and that's when your process kind of flip-flops, because you can have them answer different questions, and then that'll help you narrow down potential uh, employers for them, and give them options, just as I would for a potential client, a company. Because you always want to go in, if you are a recruiter or if you are in HR and you're filling positions, you always want to have 2 to 4, um, whether it be the placements or uh, the placements for a company, presenting them 2 to 4 candidates. Or if you have a candidate, you always want to have 2 to 4 different companies with different options of roles. and it's not always an easy task. Um, it can get very difficult because you, depending on your clients, they can be stuck in their ways and they can not be open to suggestions or new ways of improving or doing certain things. Um, and in that case, that's where being yourself and not watering yourself down comes into play, because if you're presented with options and the pay may be very good, but at the end of the day, the stress and the overwhelmingness that comes along with it is not healthy, and it's not worth it.
Is this you was recently, or was this your mindset when you started?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Is this something that you came across recently, or did you pick up this mindset from the very start of your career?
um at the very start of it, I've always been very open, um and I think that it's the most important thing is to be open and be true to yourself, because if you're not true to yourself, then what are you doing it for? And no matter what you do in life, you should always be yourself and not water yourself down. But yeah, I would say that I've had this mindset since I started, and it's grown along the way.
Okay. How do you handle negative feedback, or how do you give negative feedback?
Uh, I It's not so much as negative feedback, because I think it's being open to criticism. Um, Granted, you're not always going to hear what you want to hear, but you're going to always hear what you need to hear. Being open and honest goes a long way. And like I said, being open to criticism is very huge.
Open to criticism.
Oh yes, open to criticism.
Can you just talk more about it?
I think that, and it goes back to staying positive and not letting not not letting the negative tear you down, just finding the positive in the feedback. Being able to turn that negative feedback into something positive, and that will help you along the way, because someone can tell you, oh well, you did this or that during your interview, and we can't stand for that. So you take that feedback for your next interview and you fix it, or you, because what you're doing is you're learning and you're growing, which in turn will help you become a better version of yourself, and will help you whenever you move on to your next interview or your next role. And then you can also take that feedback and help someone else along the way. It's all about helping others and helping yourself.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that you need to hear what was that sentence? Can you just repeat that? I'm just finding that line.
You may not always hear what you want to hear, but you're always going to hear what you need to hear.
Okay, that's a great quote. That's a great quote, Holly. That could be named under yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. I truly believe that. And at the end of it, it always helps you become a better version of yourself.
Reality never lies.
Oh yes, most definitely.
Okay, what are the key important highlights that you see with the candidate during the interview?
Um, Honesty is at the top of my list. You'd be surprised how many roles I have listed and with certain specifications or requirements that are needed, and I'll get, this great resume, and when I do the initial call, the candidate has, in all actuality, no idea of what's needed. Um, so you're not only wasting precious time, you're you're not getting your foot in the correct door. Um, so honesty would be my open and honest, being open and honest, um, and say you worked on a project, making sure you list those projects, because it may be insignificant to you, but to a potential employer, that project is exactly what they needed to see to show them your potential. So I say, even if you think it's just a small project, list that on your resume or list that in your portfolio, and keeping it up to date.
Have you come across this term, fake it till you make it? How
I'm sorry, one more time.
have you come across this line, fake it till you make it?
Um, I don't like that line. I truly don't. I think that uh, there are steps that you can take so you don't have to fake it. Um, because as a young adult, I was told to fake it until I made it, and it didn't work for me. Um, I guess not only did it make me uncomfortable, um, Google these days, Google helps tremendously. There's classes you can take, there's articles you can read, there's different things to help you so you don't have to fake it till you make it.
Mhm. Okay, that's an interesting viewpoint on that.
Because, like, as a mom, I'd rather my kids be. I don't want them to fake anything. I want them to be authentic. I want them to be them true to be their true selves. And if they don't know something, then take the steps to learn about it, because there's ample opportunity. You have to have the want to go out and take it, um, or to find it, rather. And
How much do you consider? Sorry, yeah, we can go on.
oh, I'm sorry. And reaching out to others is the best way to find that opportunity. um, I think that's where um, connecting and engaging is really huge, because you
Oh,
that one person that that you see posting all the time and that you learn from. It takes that one message reaching out to them, and it can open up so much for you to learn, where you don't have to fake it till you make it.
Will come this will help you grow faster. Before expensive because it's very important. Which one do you experience or a government experience with certifications? Which one would you put?
I'm sorry, you cut out.
Yeah, we will come back to the part where you said connecting and networking helps to grow yourself as in career and as a professional.
Oh,
But
yes.
before that, how much do you consider courses and certifications to be important? And the second part of that question is, would which one would you pick? A guy or a girl with courses and certification yet zero experience, or a professional, a candidate with 5 years of experience and zero certifications or courses?
I would choose the person with the 5 years of experience and no certifications because they have hands on experience. They took initiative. I have uh, I have 20 years altogether of office experience with 15 years HR. Um, I am currently in college to get my certificates, to get my degree. Um, but I've had more doors open for me because I have hands on experience. You can't replace the hands on. And hands on for me is more important than a certificate. A certificate is still important, but it's not as important as hands on experience. That's why I mentioned to a little earlier to always include the projects that you do on whether it be your resume or your portfolio, because something that you think is insignificant as a recruiter is huge for me. I want to see that you've worked with that software or you've done that project, because that can use that as a selling point when I find you that fit, when I find that job for you or that role, that placement. And it's that much easier when I know you've had the hands-on experience versus you just read it out of a book and you haven't put it to use yet.
Right. Better than knowledge is applied knowledge.
Exactly. I want to know
Where
that
did you pick this from? Where did you pick this from, or is it from your own experience?
my own experience. It's been um, a learn and go my entire career, and I'd rather it like that. Um, and granted, I'm learning new ways in in my classes and whatnot, but at the end of the day, an employer wants someone with hands-on experience because it's, and I don't want to get into depth on that, but it's a money scheme. It's they want you to dish out more money to have, whether it be um, a, a BA or a master's or anything like that. Um, because all the knowledge that you gain from school, you can gain from being hands on. And you learn more being hands on than you do just reading a book about it. and you can be more thorough.
But if we learn from if we learn this knowledge from a book, that shows that a person has already done it before. And if we
Exactly.
can learn and if we can learn something from that person directly and avoid those mistakes, is that not a good way to learn from the book?
It is a good way to learn from the book, but I'm a firm believer in hands-on experience because you might find because a book can might take you a long way, and as in doing it hands-on, you can learn new ways to do it, whether it be a shorter way or a more detailed way rather than just going by the book. I
Mhm.
always say
Right.
dive in and get your hands dirty.
Mhm. So, how essential do you think is teamwork versus solo learning or solo work?
Um, s- I'm a I'm big on teams. Working in a team, it will help you grow and learn and be able to see things in others' perspectives. Um, Solo work is important. I'm not I'm not going to demise that. It is important, but at the end of the day, teamwork makes the dream work.
Talk to me on that. Can you just hello?
I'm here.
Yeah, can you talk more on that?
Um, on teamwork, I sure can.
Yeah.
It teamwork helps you see things in others' perspective, because you can see it just one. Because doing a project solo, you won't have other because others will have different interests and different views and different prospects. So I firmly believe in teamwork, and I think that it'll help um, the overall end result because of the fact that you'll have multiple sources and you'll have multiple um, insights because you can have one project but having multiple people work on that project, there's many things that you can take away from it, whether it be um, person A sees it this way, but you have person D that sees it this way, and then you have B and C who see it completely different. You can take away something from everybody and help that project grow. And it'll grow in ways that you never knew possible because of the fact that you did teamwork versus doing it solo.
Yeah, the contrary part is that sometimes it happens that teamwork gets too much included, that the work that has to be done gets all
Yes,
messy.
yes, there are times where teamwork can overshadow what the project is. That's why you should always have a point person. But the point person should always remember that teamwork makes it work.
I'm sorry, but what is a point person?
A point person is a designated person who has everything mapped out. Um, or the point person where if you're having challenges getting your your part of the project done is the person that you go to.
Okay. The person who knows about everyone and
Everyone's
where
part.
the team is going. That is that the person?
Correct.
Okay.
It's the person that knows everything in the project that needs to be done. And it can give that point person gives direction or insight and helps everyone along the way.
Talking about recruitment process, what is the recruitment process followed in your company?
What about the recruitment process? I'm sorry, you cut out.
I was asking what is the recruitment process followed at your company?
Um, my recruitment process differs than the big league. At big league, we it's um, I'm learning their process. At Conteno Consulting, I for the recruitment process, I find different candidates. Like I said, for a position, I like getting to know my candidates and learning what their pros and cons are, and learning what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, and finding and helping them find placement. Versus big league, where we have clients and I have to source out using what they're looking for, whether it be a certain amount of years in project management or a certain amount of years with a certain software. It at the end of the day, it's all about who you know and how what you're willing to put forth in learning. Learning is a big part, and being open to learning.
Interesting stuff over here. Uh, what are the qualities do you look for a candidate when selecting the profile?
Um, Openness and the willingness to um, learn. Because if you're not willing to learn, then you won't excel. And there's always something to be taught.
Go deeper on that.
Um, there's always something to be taught. You can, whether I'm looking for a, someone in coding, there's always more codes to be taught. There's always more codes to be to learn from. um, or that project manager. Uh, there's always more that person can be taught, or that person can learn from another. So being open to learn is highly recommended and highly encouraged.
Okay. Oh, apart from openness, what do you think or what do you follow in a candidate's profile? Because openness cannot be seen in a candidate's profile until you meet them.
And so, yep, correct. Um,
So
being
what do you
thorough,
follow before meeting them?
uh, the thoroughness on whether it be on their profile, especially on LinkedIn, being thorough in key points, not putting aspiring to be, because whenever I'm searching, it throws off my search. So, um, putting the job description that you want, or the job descriptions that you've done, being very thorough, um, is is very crucial.
Writing it is in present tense. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes. Oh, yes.
What are the common types of profiles that you have selected and said that, okay, this one stands out? And can you give a specific reason or the thing that always clicks from you? Okay, this profile is what I believe that is going to be the right candidate for this job.
It's all about keywords. All about keywords. Uh, because I have many roles that I look for, whether it be in IT or marketing or construction for project management. Um, Keywords are crucial because I can look up, say I need a project manager, and that's what I will go on LinkedIn uh, and search for project manager. So, say you're a project manager at your last company, but that's not what you listed it as. You listed it as just manager. Well, then it's not gonna pull you up for me because you didn't specifically put project manager. So being detailed, I would say, is my biggest thing. Make sure you're detailed when you're listing what you're doing. And um, for instance, I was a corporate accounting manager. Um, so of course I listed that, and I put in there that when I first started, we were a $4 million company, and 2 years later, we were operating at a 18+ million company. So not only am I detailed, but I'm also putting in numbers showing you what it was I was handling and what it was on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, this is interesting. This is interesting stuff. Have you, during the interview, this is pre-interview, right? You set up the keywords, you search for the project manager. This is pre-interview stuff. Talking about during the interview stuff, what do you observe in a candidate? Because first was openness. That is a checkbox that you need to have. And after that, what are the qualities that you always keep in back of your head? Okay, these are the three things more that I need to have from a candidate.
Communication. Being open to communicate and promptness. Because whenever I get a role, I'm looking to fill it right then and there, but I want to fill it with the correct person. And if it takes, like if it takes too long, then you have to move on to the next candidate. So being prompt is major. If you know that someone is looking at you to potentially fill a role, making sure that the channels, so to speak, whether it be through LinkedIn or email or whatnot, making sure you're on top of answering those chats, answering those questions, um, or that email, just making sure that it's open and it's prompt.
Prompt meaning that it should be replied immediately, or what?
Making sure that you don't, making sure that they don't um, wait too much time to respond. And then, especially if you're a candidate looking for placement, and a recruiter reaches out, you don't want to leave that recruiter hanging for a week because we're going to forget who you are. And then
Correct.
that starts the process all over again. And you could have been a great match for that job, but being that you waited so long to get back with us, we had to move on.
Correct.
So always,
Sometimes it's always the, sorry, can you can on.
no, that's okay. So always making sure that you stay in touch with the recruiter or the potential client.
Yeah, there is also there's al- there's also another contrary part to it, that sometimes a candidate is over pressing on a HR. Let's assume a scenario where the interview is done and the HR says, I will give you the response in 48 hours. Yet after sometimes the candidate comes back and forth continuously.
Yeah, I've had instances where where I tell them I will reach them in X amount of hours, and then they're emailing me or sending me messages way before that closing time. That does make it more. Keep in mind that it does make it harder for us to do our jobs. Um, and sometimes we don't have an answer, and that waiting period is just as crucial for us as it is for you, and can be just as nail biting, so to speak, because we want the best outcome. Just as bad as you want to be placed, we want to place you. It's just sometimes it takes longer to get responses from the hiring managers or whatnot, and making sure that you give the recruiter that you're working with breathing room and not being too pushy. And being too pushy, I mean that each recruiter will have their own version of someone being too pushy. So I know for myself, if I tell you 48 hours and you're not waiting that 48 hours before you touch base with me, um, I do appreciate whenever um, after I interview with a candidate and they send a follow up email right after thanking me for that interview, that goes a long way, because not only does that tell me that we just didn't waste our time, but you are actually invested, and that'll make me want to work that much harder for you and help find you placement. And because you'd be surprised how many employers will ask if any follow-up emails were sent, and if so, how many, because that'll in turn let the employer know if you are invested and if you are serious. So I do think it's always important to send, after you have the initial interview, to send the follow-up email saying, hey, just keeping it brief. Thanks for this. Thanks for touching base with me. I enjoyed interviewing with you. I look forward to hearing back from you. Signed, your name. Keeping it simple. And then after that 48 hours, if you don't hear anything, it may not be a bad thing, but sending another follow-up email saying, hey, I noticed that our time frame has lapsed, and I was just wanting to check in to see if you have an update. It goes a long way.
Fair enough. Is that what candidates normally follow, or is it what you want them to follow?
Uh, Typically, it's what I've seen so far. It is something that I would like my candidates to follow, um, and because I've seen it work the best um, for both the candidate and for the potential employer and slash recruiter. It helps so that candidates don't fall through the cracks.
Speak, remember this. Speaking of cracks, how do you advise a candidate to negotiate his salary?
Oh, that's a good question. Always go in higher, um, because especially if they give a range, always go in higher, and always know your worth. Do your research. Always research to see what that role is currently ranging at, um, and let them know that this, what the salary range is. This is what you're coming in at, but make sure you have the experience and the knowledge to back up asking for that. Because you don't want to say you find a job where the salary range is 120,000 to 130,000. You can start at 130,000, but if you don't have the experience or the knowledge to back it up, they're going to counter offer with a whole lot less than what you're looking for. And I think um, being open and honest in the beginning on what you're looking for when it comes to salary is huge.
The counter offer. The counter offer. What do you think is the right way to counter salary? Let's assume the salary is 130,000 for a job role of assistant developer or a system developer. So if I am sitting as a candidate against you, not with you, but against you, then I am asking 130,000. What would you potentially save me to take down or validate my request?
Point out your achievements, point out your knowledge. You have, at the end of it, it's selling yourself, but you want to make sure that you're selling what you really do know and what you, that things that you can back up.
Yeah, selling yourself.
Oh yes, sell yourself.
Is that the simple advice that you always give a candidate during the interview or anything else?
um no, just always being yourself and being upfront and honest, and remembering that it's okay to be nervous, but always keep in mind that the person interviewing you is probably just as nervous as you are. So just have a conversation. Let it be a conversation.
Let
And
it
just
be
be
a
yourself.
conversation. Hmm. Okay. Then let it be a conversation and be yourself. That are
Yep,
the two pieces of advice that you would like to give anyone, right?
correct. Most definitely.
Mhm. What What is the one initiative that every candidate should undertake about getting the job?
Um, that's a good question. Uh, always go with your gut. Always go with your gut. If something feels off, then walk away.
Always go with your gut. Whether isn't that a counterintuitive approach to being specific and follow through with data?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm asking that always going with the gut, isn't that the other way or the contrary approach to going with the data or having the data correctly aligned and then finding is this right or is this wrong?
Um, there may be, but I'm more of a gut person. Um, I think that um, if you can't follow your gut, then follow what is on paper. Make sure that everything lines up, um, and always get everything in writing.
Go with the gut and have everything in the writing.
Oh yes.
Okay. Can you just go a deeper, one level deeper on have everything in writing?
From what your duties are, what your pay will be. Make sure to get all of that in writing, um, so that way you're not being asked to do things that is out of your pay scale, or having extra things put on your plate that you're not getting paid for.
Hmm. Yeah, candidates always the new things that come up on and they just get added to their plate.
I have seen it many times where a candidate will agree to one job, but whenever they start, they didn't get it in writing. So next thing you know, they're wearing multiple hats and not getting compensated for it. So I think that um, having it in writing is very, very important.
Okay, there's one question that I would like to ask final that what is the latest thing that a candidate must know in their domain?
You cut out. I'm sorry. What was that?
There is a severe network lag due to rains over here. Oh, my bad. What is the one thing that you would like a candidate to know about in the hiring domain?
Do your research on the company before you apply to it or before you have your interview. Have some core questions. Ask what their values are. Ask what's important. Ask what's the day in the life of the role that you're looking for. Have questions. You don't want to be the only one answering questions. You want them to answer questions also.
Ask them questions on their company values, day-to-day job, as well as knowing how the growth is about.
Correct.
Okay, that's a fair ask. Everyone should be able to tell about their company, I believe so.
I believe so too.
All right, I'm done with the questions. Holly, do you want to play a rapid fire?
I'm sorry.
Do you want to play a rapid fire round?
That baby is actually crying, so I'm gonna have to go feed.
All right, cool, no big deal. Thanks for being on the podcast, Holly. It was great
Thank
and wonderful, and, and it was also great from learning from you all the new things that you have shared.
thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Final thoughts, Holly. Where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Hollie Centeno. And you can also go to my website at centenoconsulting.com.
Can you just put that thing on the chat so that I can pick it up and put it up?
Yeah, I sure can. I'll put it in the chat for you now. There you go.
Oh, I guess it has spaces in between. I guess so. There is